Hi, I've got a story that I think would be great as a case study for how artists and brands can relate to each other, even businesses to each other. And the story that that I think would be a great case study is that of Euodia. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. It's the first time I come across a name like yours. But Euodia represents Touchee Feelee, and the story is basically about her and her interactions with Woolworths South Africa. The short of it is that Euodia and Woolworths were in talks about a design, that they were that Euodia presented to Woolworths, and then Woolworths, eventually in the negotiations, kind of weren't happy for whatever reason and decided not to go with the designs. At least as far as Euodia is concerned. Now, what happened was that, at least according to Euodia, is that after the turning down of after the product, after her designs, after Woolworths didn't go with the designs, she later found the product that she had presented to them, or one that is very closely similar to the one that she presented in one of Woolworths stores in Cape Town. And so, and that's kind of the backdrop behind that. So I thought I'd do a post about how I would kind of deal with the situation if I were Euodia and if I were or Woolworths South Africa. And so I mean I do think that some of the things that I will say might come out of either obvious or not so or other or not so obvious um, you know assumptions, because I don't think we know the story fullest apart from what we've heard from Euodia and a very curt, well, what I think is a very curt response from Woolworths so far. So, how would I respond to the whole situation if I were Touchy Feely? I think the first thing I would have done is what they did. Euodia says that she reached out to the boss and the person that she was in talks with, and then she was told that the person wasn't available, and to talk or to engage. So the first thing, if I felt works I'd presented were violated, I would definitely reach out to the enterprise or the organization or individual that I felt had violated um, you know some of my works in whatever way. And then, so the next thing that Euodia did was that she went and wrote a blog post, a very emotional one, I think. And I do need to say up front that by saying an emotional blog post, I'm not in any way suggesting that it is not objective. I do think that you can be objective while you're emotional. That's me. So it can either be right or wrong or whichever way it goes, but um, I would have been emotional if I were her, and if she says things happen the way they did, I would be emotional. So I probably would have. I mean, I would have reached out. Number one, number two, I probably would have also gone and written a blog post like how she did. Um, you know, I don't buy into the nonsense of don't take it personally when you've created something. There's no way you can not take something personally when it's your work, when you've created it. There's you've spent time, you put time into that, you've poured a part of who you are into that. So I think for the people that say, don't take it personally, or those kind of things, that's a whole lot of nonsense. That's rubbish. If you talk like that, I think that you haven't really taken the time to create something that you care about. And until you've created something that's very close to your heart, or something that you really put a lot of yourself into it, don't make such statements. Really, I don't believe that I can be completely divorced from things that I create. So, I mean, I would do the same thing if I were Euodia. I would lash out because it's something that's close the things I create, the words I write, are very personal to me. Um, although I've kind of also learned how to manage, certain responses, and I will take things personally. It will sting, I will process it, and I will get over it. But it's not it's not something that I would just not take personally. So Euodia, I completely understand. As a creative, I do believe that if you're not passionate about what you create, then you probably shouldn't be creating it. Um, you know. Well, then again, if it's to pay bills, that's cool. But don't tell someone who creates something not to take things personally. And then another question that I have, because and I read the Woolworths response. One of the managing directors actually posted a response on the website. I'll put a link to that below this. I've also taken a screenshot in case it gets pulled down. But I don't understand why Woolworths would continue to ask for samples for Euodias or Touchee Feelee's hummingbird when they had already signed off on it. Like they say on their on the Woolworths website, they say that they had already commissioned the work in 2012. So why would they bother in 2013 to ask for samples for the same hummingbird that they already had? So for me, that's fishy. Like, you know and Woolworths, as far as I'm concerned, does not in any way respond to that. They don't say anything about, you know, they don't respond to Euodia saying about anything about her samples, about requesting samples or anything like that. Well, I'm gonna park that and kind of speak about it when I'm talking about the Woolworths side of things. Um, But for me, I would be very emotional and I would respond. I've already stated that. So I'd reach out to the people that I feel violated my product or my work. I would, if I never got any response from them, I probably would go public like I just did now. The third thing I probably would do is get a lawyer. I don't know if Euodia sought any legal counsel before she wrote the blog post that she did, or if she has enlisted the services of any lawyer or some legal expert. But I think that would be very at the scale, at the level at which this issue is at. I really would get legal counsel and some sort of legal experts on my team to know how to navigate this, because it's obviously going to boil down into some legal issues if the fight continues. So I'd enlist a lawyer, or some legal expert or whatever. You know what I mean? You know the terms, but I'll get some sort of legal expert in my corner. And then the other thing, I think, if I were Euodia right now, because there's no way you can rewind and go back to negotiation stages. So as Touchee Feelee, at this point, I'd want to think about what it is that I want to do. What would make things right for me in this situation? So if it's a percentage of the sales or if it's a payout, I think I probably would start thinking about that right now. And then the other thing that I would do would be thinking carefully about how I present my works to possible buyers, to other brands, and how would I watermark my brands? Would I publish them and get them time stamped, for example? Would I post maybe even do prints of the designs and go to the post office and send my self-registered mail, which I never open, for instances like this, because a post office stamp could really save you. It sounds stupid for some, but it's one of the things that could save you. Put the thing through post, registered mail, post it to yourself, and just keep it somewhere safe. But somehow find a way of protecting your designs, and use watermarks. Don't leave samples. If for instance someone that I was consulting with told me that they wanted to leave their product to be for someone to read or someone to to go through, I'd rather schedule another meeting with the person and I mean with them and say, you know what, if these people want to see my works, then I'd rather we schedule another meeting where I come with my samples and we decide from there. I would also get legal counsel about. The other thing I would do is get legal counsel and kind of have a way or some document, whether it's a non-disclosure agreement or whatever. But if the stakes are really as high as they've gotten here, I would ask a lawyer or someone to help me, draft some sort of contract, which would be a basis, which would form part of the basis of our discussions, and negotiations and how I present my works. And it's risky in that you want to get your work out, but at the same time, there's no way you can get your work out without showing it. Catch 22. The other thing that I would do as Euodia, if I wouldn't I do need to say this though, that there's no way that you can always have something completely figured out, and my post is really good. It's not about slamming Euodia, but it's putting myself in her shoes and the lessons that I take away from that, from her experience. So yeah, and then the other way is, I think Touchee Feelee is already doing this anyway, is find other avenues, for getting my products and my designs out, which would include selling them from my website or my blog online, having an outlet store, which I think Touchee Feelee is already doing some of that. So yeah, it's a tough one. And so that's one of these are just some of the things that I thought I would do. If I were in the shoes as a creator or as a designer, an artist, or whatever, I think that's some of the things that I would do. I hope everything works out for both you, Touchee Feelee, and Woolworths. And at the moment, so far, based on Woolworths' responses, I think things are a little tougher for Hoolies. So this is what I would do if I were Euodia or Touchee Feelee. So check out the second post. I'm going to talk about what I would do if I were Woolworths in this scenario. Cheers.